Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. How are you guys doing this morning, afternoon, wherever you are? There's a lot of winds going on.
Sorry, kids. Good morning. It's great to see you guys in the chat already. That's wonderful. How are you?
Definitely a lot of severe wintry weather all around. So we are seeing, lots of winter action. It's very unusual here. We have some sort of liquid on the roof and around the windows.
This clear, watery stuff. Yeah, it's dripping all over. It's super rare here.
Yeah, so this will be the second time we've gotten rain in 5 days?
Yeah. Second time in 5 days.
Something like that, so, this is the first time I'm experiencing it out here. This looks more like the Northeast that I was used to, and I told Cindy, I said, up in Connecticut, pretty much all winter, it's mostly gray, and every now and then, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, you might get a little bit of a blue sky, but it was so rare. And I heard from a friend over in Southern California that they're getting pretty good storms there.
Yeah, this is a little bit unusual. We do get some storms every now and then. They can get a little bit vicious. Nothing too bad. You know what the difference is this time, though? It's really dark, kind of ominous. I don't like it. Doesn't feel good. I've had like this low-grade unsettledness in my stomach today.
That she says she's feeling is definitely like earth change related.
It is. It's really like a low-grade, deep feeling, and it does feel earthy for sure.
So good morning, Jen, Greg, Epic 76, The Lamb Lucifer, Jenny Turner, Sarah Noya. Good to see you guys. Free Flow, JR Arizona Patriot. He says it's 41 and windy in central Arizona. That's making me cross my arms and shiver a little bit here thinking about it. It's definitely getting wintry. The weather is always changing around everywhere we look. Severity is the thing we see in so many places. And Epic 76. Okay, we've had plain parts down here in the southwest Florida. Be beautifully blue skies, but instead it's milky white. Yeah, we get that. I saw such heavy engineering going on when I was in Florida. It was super thick. We don't get as much out here, but then again, there's only some hundred, a few hundred people out here. It really doesn't feel like there's much. So I guess why waste your time? Because I'm sure it costs a lot of money. Raven says rain bomb for 2 hours in Appalachia. So that always made me a little bit more nervous when we're in the mountains, especially when I was sitting there with, Brother Eric on the front porch, and all of a sudden we heard a big crash, bam, boom, after so much constant rain, just a whole section of a mountain deciding to go and slide on down. And we've seen that all over the globe as well.
Yeah, that would be scary, being up on the mountain with rains like that, just feeling like any minute you're going to have a 300-foot tree plop on your head. I wouldn't cope with that very well. But out here, you can see everywhere. Everything's pretty flat. So the worst we get here would be those flash floods.
Yeah. And again, in the desert too, where the soil is so dried up, then it becomes rivers everywhere, and we see evidence of that when we're out hiking and stuff. It's just amazing. And major snow headed to Rico, Colorado, and Telluride. Yeah, there's a lot of snow coming. Wicked winds. That is what people are experiencing all over. Thank you, Joe. Awesome. We are so happy to be doing this. Sarah Noya, she enjoyed the monsoon season in Nevada. There's a piece to it, most definitely. So we'll start over here, and we see how the Watcher's unusual, record-breaking storm slams West Coast as extremely active weather pattern continues across much of the U.S. just in time for, the biggest travel days of the year. We're getting this going on. And, this term that we have seen now so often, I don't remember ever hearing it maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But now we hear it all the time, the bomb cyclone. So 2 powerful storms are affecting much of the U.S. this week. Strong surface low tracking across the Great Lakes towards New England, and a historic bomb cyclone which hit the West Coast on the 26th with central pressure near 970. So, people are saying like, well, why don't they just call these things hurricanes and all? So it's pretty unusual to see a storm like this hitting the West Coast. So say the officials. Below average temps are expected to continue for much of the central and western states. And here we see how the National Weather Service, it does have that cyclonic, rotation to it. Mm-hmm. And things they have like kind of an ominous feel, when it comes to the weather events, which in Florida, and then even in the mountains in North Carolina, I felt that a lot more. Here, I think I was lulled to sleep a lot, just because it's kind of the same thing every day. But even out here, you're going to have changes. And we talked about deserts blooming and some areas that are bread baskets not producing anymore because either they're underwater, or you have all of a sudden droughts in some areas. Everything is changing. And so, if well, there are those that are really, really well versed with what happens, historically with a grand solar minimum, but there's other things in play too, such as the magnetic pole reversal. Perhaps, the fact that we're going through what we call the photon belt, this energetic area. When we look at the gigantic cataclysms that seem to reset us back to the Stone Age, or maybe even worse, we are in that time frame. We are most definitely in that time frame. Whether maybe we have, most people probably won't agree. Maybe we have still another 100, 200, 300 years. Who knows before we hit that peak, or maybe it's just right around the corner. As we see everything here, just incredibly strong winds. So the temperature outlook for December, if you're here basically in the San Francisco area, southern Oregon, going through the middle of Nevada and into Utah, you got much above average temperatures expected. Above average for most of the West, all the way down to Texas. And then we have near or slightly above average through this middle zone. And then we have near or slightly below average for the East Coast, including all the way down to Florida. And very below average if you're up in Maine and northern Vermont and New Hampshire and the very northernmost portion of New York State. And incredible beauty up that way as well. So that is the outlook that we have going.
So, out of the years that you have been covering the Earth changes, do you really, really, really see that much of a ramp up, or is it just sort of intermittent weirdness?
I think everything changed in August 2017. There's a lot of different graphs you could look at, and you could see like earthquake activity has been increasing, decade after decade. There's a lot of storms now of the ilk that we just don't used to not get. Zeke in Canada, thank you, brother. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you so much, Zeke, for in Canada. We appreciate that a ton.
Much love, brother. And, Cindy and I, we've been talking. We're going to do a lot of traveling once it gets a little bit warmer. And we have had a few invites from people up in Canada. And I think we're going to do a little exploring when it gets warmer. Head up your way, next year. And then also, Cindy has not seen the eastern part of the U.S., and I was showing her some of my favorite cities last night: Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, St. Augustine, Sarasota. And so we're definitely going to make a trip out that way. That will probably come first, because we'll probably head out that way maybe in February, March, because it starts getting nice. And come visit people, down in Florida and the Carolinas and Georgia, around them.
Hi, Jordan Gooden. There's a couple of different ways you can do with PayPal and Ko-Fi. And also, I don't know if I should give the P.O. box. We do have a P.O. box. It depends on how do you want to send it.
Yeah, right now, as we said, that we are staying with Cindy's mom, who is glad to have us, and so we are mutually enjoying our time with her, and ultimately, I think our life might be on the road, sort of, and just coming back to home base now and again, spending time with some good friends, that are family now. It's amazing. We've talked about this before. It's like family is not necessarily blood. There's soul family, which can become, so much tighter than blood. Even honestly, it really can. I mean, there's you guys out there. There's many of you that we have met. And it's just, it's just as if we're completely brothers and sisters. And it's just that tight. And it just feels like we've known each other for so long. And of course, we all have, for the most part, a lot of the same interests. And, that's part of it, and we understand each other because we understand the world. And, well, at least we think we understand what's going on in the world, where so many people are just completely asleep. And I know you guys probably get people that still look at you and think that you're crazy when you tell them about things that are going on. You start talking grand solar minimum, pole shift, photon belt, Nibiru, and they look at us like we're crazy. Like, what the heck are you talking about? And but with soul family, you understand these things. You understand the bigger battle as well.
We do understand the bigger battle, and it's not even so much grand solar minimum, Nibiru, all those things for me, as it is more of being heart-centered and coming together, having a meeting of the minds, and respecting and trusting each other and understanding each other, because in a way there's not too many of us starseeds in comparison to the rest of the population. We're sort of kind of scattered. I'm going to guess there's probably one really weird one considered a starseed in each family, and that's going to be our job to kind of inform the family of really what's going on.
Yes, Jordan, I know where Pinellas County is, and we definitely would love to meet you guys. Before we have done a couple of EEA family get-togethers, and they were fun. Definitely fun. And so we could do something like that when we're in a major area and meet at a nice spot, like maybe a park or something along those lines. We'll definitely let you know when we're heading in your area, and then we'd love to meet up for coffee or lunch, whatever, or just to get together, just time to talk. It's fun. It's definitely fun to share time and to meet people in person. It's such a blessing. Like we just met Kimberly from Shasta when we were up in Shasta, and it's like instant family.
It is. It's your soul family, and it's really wonderful. It's super nice to meet people that, you vibrate at the same rate with. It's comfortable.
It's a beautiful thing. Most definitely. As Cosmic Jerry showing a lot of coffee, which, I'm not sure. We've had, I don't know, we're working on third cup, and actually Cindy was just brewing some more, which she's going to grab some more to keep us going. It's just one of those days, but I kind of like this. I like a little winter. I do like a little winter. I can't handle 6 months of winter. It's almost like I wouldn't mind being up in the Canadian wilderness for, maybe all of December, and then going and living in Florida or somewhere tropical right after, just to get you that feel of it. And it's good to see everybody joining us. Fred, good to see you, brother. Greg, preliminal. Yeah, I like spring is great too. Change is nice, really. Change is nice. That's why, I feel like I'm almost a nomad, and actually, blood type B is known as kind of the nomad. It came out of a time when people were just roaming, a tough time where they're just like scavenging for food. Raven says 2 to 3 pots are just his supply. Sarah Noya. Okay, so she's bringing up Discord, and our brother Scott, who I have to get back with, is building a Discord for the EEA family. So that is something I was going to wait to give you guys. Outlaw Bar Barker, you're a B negative too, so am I. So we're about 3% of the population, 2.5% of the population. So yeah, there's going to be a Discord for everyone to go to, and Scott has been working on it, and we've just been kind of crazy. I have to get back with Scott because it is basically, I believe, up and running right now. So he was just going to give me the rest of the info to give to you guys, and then that will be up and going as well. Well, thank you so much. We'll definitely will, as far as help there.
Yeah, so, the weather, gosh, it's like really cold today, and the coffee is really warm. I just got the coffee off of the stove, and you guys are super awesome. I see all these cups of coffee this morning. Is this like a pre-Thanksgiving thing where everybody's just drinking a lot of coffee today because we know tomorrow's going to be like a kind of a really long, long day?
Perhaps it is. So specific healing for RH negatives, that's something I have not looked into specifically, though I do believe that the power of like energy work is increasing rapidly because we are being changed by all the cosmic rays coming in, and it's turning our DNA online. More and more of our DNA is coming online. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Barbara Handclough. We were listening to her like 2 nights ago, and this is exactly what she was talking about, and it's exactly what I've felt and many others have felt. That's the blessing of these times. As the magnetosphere is declining, more cosmic rays are coming in. I don't really feel that's a bad thing, so to speak, because I think we are being changed. And I think that our ability to heal just using intention and just learning how to control the life force is increasing exponentially right now. Exponentially. And unfortunately, I think that's part of why the darker forces have been really hitting us hard in so many other ways. Yes, telepathic empaths. There's a lot of empaths, and empaths are having a much harder time in many ways right now, staying grounded, because there's just, you're being bombarded by so much energetically. And this is out of the Huffington Post, basically talking again, bomb cyclone threatens Thanksgiving travel plans. And, we're going to see a lot of this year. It's coming. It's on its way. Many of you guys are already buried. Cindy's family, much of it's up in Idaho, and a lot of it is in northern Nevada. And the photos that we saw on Facebook of the locals, they're all buried in snow. It's like waist high in so many areas. Here you see Denver International Airport, about 10 inches of snow mixed with winds that limited visibility prompted the cancellation of about 30% of the airport's average daily 1,600 flights. I always hated flying out or in that type of weather. It certainly makes for a white knuckle ride, but some people like that. And the storm dumped nearly 3 feet of snow in parts of northern Colorado and closed long stretches of highways there and in Wyoming. One person was killed, 2 others injured when a tractor-trailer jackknifed and was hit by 2 other trucks on I-70 near Vail. And you have Southwest Airlines canceled about 200 flights. And 1,100 people spent the night in the airport. Had to do that once. It wasn't comfortable. It was up in Chicago, too, during a blizzard after being in Anaheim. And it was gorgeous when I was in Anaheim. It was like 80 degrees, beautiful weather. And then you fly in for a layover in Chicago, and you couldn't imagine any more severe wintry weather.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people have, seasonal depression too. I know my sister has it. And I think there's specific lights you can buy that might help in taking vitamin D and just all around taking good care of yourself. And Saranoia, I'm sorry, she said she was surrounded with negativity. And sometimes that used to be me. And I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I had to isolate to the point where I could raise my own vibration. And sometimes you just reach a space where you do what it takes. Like there is times when I would go out to my car to meditate. I would go in the bathroom to meditate. I would go out in the shed to do my mantras. I had to do what it took, but mostly overall it was the energy work and the meditation, the mantras, and my diet. Diet is so huge. The sugar's gotta go. Processed foods gotta go. Those things help raise my vibration so that, I'm not feeling that horrible, negative, draining anxiety anymore. It's really, really, truly starting to lift. Granted, it's been, it's taken a year, but I'm here. And this is coming from someone who's been in a depression state for probably 20 plus years. So it's doable, you guys. You just really have to create your own surroundings and put your foot down and say enough's enough and I'm going to get better.
Most definitely. And one of our family members, Portia, and she's a amazing lady doing light work, to a very, very high degree. I'll give you guys the info. It's going to be coming out very soon. She just wrote a book, and it's going to be released on Monday and available for purchase on Amazon. And I'm going to share that with you guys as soon as I have all of the details. And it's awesome. It's called So I Woke Up. Yeah, right.
I woke up and now what, right?
Exactly. Boy, is that pertinent for our times. And she had me write the foreword for the book. So I will definitely share that with you guys. And it's beautiful to see our family members, really contributing. Adapt 2030 in the house.
Wow.
David, good to see you, brother. Our desert is getting wetter.
As we speak.
Yeah, well, for one, we have more pomegranates than we could do anything with. We could have pomegranate fights instead of snowball fights if we wanted to, but it'd be a bloody mess. Those things leave them.
It looks like we slaughtered a chicken when we're done cutting up the pomegranates at night for our snack.
Yeah, most definitely. And mentally doing plans for a greenhouse here to get that rolling. We know we're going to be on the road a lot, but her mother, Cindy's mom, is most definitely a great natural caretaker. Mm-hmm. She does a lot of planting and growing. It's just something that she just loves so much.
Mom is like a little nimble she is like the trees herself. They are her. She is them. So she loves to take care of the yard, the trees, everything. And you can feel the love when you walk around this yard. I mean, every day she's been out there taking care of those trees, doing something, snipping them, watering them, fertilizing them, loving them. She's really good at it. So we'll have some fruit trees here. And I think like what we can grow here, we already have apricots, we have plums, and we can get apple, pear. Lots of nut trees grow out here. So we have a pretty good variety of stuff, peaches. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Cindy has a lot of family here. So there's multiple homes here. This is almost like a little Wild West town, and maybe it almost feels like 10% of it is your family. Here, which is a support group, and so there's a lot of different things growing between everybody, which is nice too, because it's a community thing, and your uncle is like one of the big wigs, and
he's on the town board for he's a big fish in a little pond, you might say. But he's on the town board, and he runs the VFW here in town. And yeah, good people. My family's good people.
Most definitely. So yeah, we're in Nevada. We're northwest of Las Vegas, out in the middle of nowhere, really. Just a small town, and a tiny little town encircled by mountains. And it looks, if you walk through it, it's just trailers, and single and double wides. There's probably only 10% of the structures are actually stick-built, if that. So it looks like a very temporary town, and it was set up basically all about gold and mines. But next year we're going to be kind of off and about visiting you guys and all of our family, and as well as having like a home base here to come back to, as well as other home bases out there, because of our family members. And if David's still in the house, David Adapt 2030, I'm wondering, are you back in the States? Have you headed back home to Tennessee? Or are you still abroad? He is always traveling. This is a busy, busy man. He's out there doing seminars, and he definitely leads a very busy life, and he's a great researcher and a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, very much so. So, with the changes that we have coming, I wonder if they've updated all of the, like when you go to order a tree, it tells you what climate it can go in. Do you think they're going to update those too? You think it's going to get to the point where they'll have to update the climates?
Yeah, I would expect that, most definitely. And Soul Reviver in the house. Sweet potatoes, very resilient, last a long time. Sweet potatoes are great nutrition. And so we had talked once about your aunt too, because she has other family upstate, and her aunt has this hydroponic system that is incredible. Okay, so David was in Tennessee, heading to Prague, and then Tbilisi. Sounds exciting, because boy, do I love to travel and see new places. That sounds so exciting. Be safe out there, most definitely.
Yeah, be safe out there. Adapt 2030. Take really good care of yourself, but do enjoy yourself. So, yeah, growing food, I think there's never a bad time to get into growing your own food. I think there's a lot of things that we can start indoors, which is probably partly how we're going to do it here. But I think now is the time of year to start planting some trees. Isn't that what we read?
Yeah, you could plant here. Sometimes it's good to plant in the fall, because it gives the tree's root system time to adapt before the growth comes in the spring. And, so that is what I did before in a different location. I was in a different relationship going back several years, and actually found almost like the perfect property to withstand the zombie apocalypse. 11 acres and an acre and a half of a pond that had thousands of fish in it, including some catfish that were about 4 foot long. And so we planted about 200 to 300 fruit and nut trees, And now, it's a nice little orchard there, bearing tons of food, and had a river going through it. It was ideal property. It wasn't mine. I didn't have the money. It was my partner's at the time. And then when we split up, she still has it. But she's set up well. And it was a great learning experience because honestly, I learned a ton from her. She even did bee cultivation, and it's an important thing too that gets overlooked because the bees are dying. It's sad. We have this massive extinction going on. The insect world especially is way ahead of ours, and as far as that extinction. And I know David knows about that too. So there's so much we can do, and there's so much to be done. And obviously, things are changing so rapidly. And Southern California getting hit, coating grapevine with some snow. We see this wintry look everywhere. And the historic snowfall forces many northern Colorado communities to all but shut down. So that was my thought. Colorado is beautiful, and it's one of the states that so many people are flocking to, as well as Utah and Idaho too. Idaho, Boise is booming, but yet if we are going to get so much colder, is it the best choice? That was what was in my mind, in my head, as far as is that going to be the wisest choice? I know Diamond and Rex are in southern Colorado, and I absolutely love the Santa Fe area and the area just north of it. But I just thought it was a little bit cold. But we're gonna have to adapt. We've adapted in the past, and that's what we're gonna have to do. Here we see severe weather kills 2 more in Greece, bringing the death toll up to 9 across parts of Europe. And how many times have we seen that, with these bridges just collapsed? Think about it, you got to have plans and backup plans for escaping an area. Know your surroundings. Really, really know your surroundings. And so, when we were up in Western North Carolina, the road that I was living off of, the road off the road that I was living off of, we did get flooding. I looked at the river that was there and thought, this could be problems, because, when the spring rains came, you might not be able to get out. And there was a brief time there where the river overflowed its banks and really blocked off the road. So you wouldn't be able to get out for a while. And that was what made me decide, screw it. I'm going to get rid of my car a few months early and get a truck and take on a little bit of debt with the truck just because, you don't want to get stuck. You don't want to be stuck somewhere where you can't get out.
Right. We have like the best end of the world truck ever. It's the bomb. And if we do go RVing, it'll tow just about anything. So it's really good. It's awesome.
Yeah, they'll tow up to like 12,700 pounds. So, it's good enough for what we could do, what we're going to need, because a 21 footer would be plenty for the 2 of us with the 2 dogs.
Yeah, so that would be a lot of fun. And, I always feel safer having a 4-wheel drive, something that can get through just about anything. Because, if we are going to be traveling, we don't know what we're going to run into.
Organic farms in the house and grow your own. Beautiful statement. Love it, love it, love it. That's really what we got to do. I think David would agree. We're kind of at that point now that we really got to really be trying to grow as much of our own food and looking again, like we were touching on the other day, think 6 to 12 months ahead. Think ahead, because, prices are going up. Last time I just pointed out to Cindy when we were in the market, I said, come take a look at this, and it was like a roast that was like $40. And, it's not something she had ever bought before in her life, but yet it blew her mind thinking about, just how expensive things are getting now, because they are going up. Have you guys noticed how expensive the food prices are, how fast things are going up price-wise?
Yeah, I mean, that was a little ridiculous, seeing a slab of meat for $40. I mean, I wouldn't be able to eat it personally. I just couldn't stomach it. I could, because of the money, because it costs so much.
Yeah, it's incredible how expensive things are getting out there. Certain things are going way, way, way up. And as we talked about before, the fake meat section over in the butcher area is growing. And, many people caught on and said, you think that is basically part of the fact that everything is going to be just not available? Like pork is usually what David says $40 is cheap. I heard from Celeste it's 80 in her area. Yeah, it's incredible. Like over in the Carolinas, pork especially was dirt cheap. Back when I first moved to them, I was amazed, how cheap you could get there because, there's so many farms there. And Dusty says, don't buy industry meat and buy it from your local farmer. Most definitely, way healthier, way, way healthier. If you're going to be eating meat, most definitely. Glenn says there are more vegan cafes opening in London. Food is good and tasty. And, honestly, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be almost impossible to afford. You're going to, rice and beans is going to start to look better and better as, prices are going to be going up and up and up. And Susan, you said a key word there. I keep thinking about that. I know I brought it up in some videos. Soylent Green, is that where we're heading? There's been a couple people mentioning that type of thing exactly, which is disgusting and bizarre. But yeah, they live. Beans are still cheap and tasty, especially when you get herbs. So I just got a 1 pound, a 1 pound bag of sage and another 1 pound of organic chipotle. So, my thing is I have hundreds of spices. And so I can make a lot of different varieties of rice and beans if we have to do that. If that's the way we're going to go, we're going to change it out and mix it up because I have spices stocked in mason jars that will last for years and years and years. And yes, Starfire, thanks for bringing it up. They actually recalled like all romaine. The Fed said that basically no romaine is safe. And romaine is grown in just 2 places really in the U.S. Most of it's grown in either Salinas, California, or down by Yuma, Arizona. And so somehow it got affected with E. coli. And yes, spices are just like medicines. And, with the right spices, you can make anything taste good. Really, you really can. Koki says Impossible Burger has weed killer in it. Yeah, it's a pick your poison. And David says, I know some vegans or vegetarians will disagree. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. That's a dark vision there, Raven. Black meat market. Yikes. And so I do know a lot of people too that, and like when I was up in Ohio, my ex's brother had a farm and he had hogs and and chickens and everything, so he would just butcher his own, and of course our vegan and vegetarian friends as well. I think it's easy enough to maybe cook something at home or most definitely get something from a restaurant. But when you gotta butcher it yourself, that's a totally different situation. I don't think a lot of people can do that.
When I was little, we were growing up, we lived on a working farm, and yeah, we did butcher our chickens, and we did have a couple of steers, and we named one hamburger and one T-bone. It's very humane, very humane,
I,
but
I,
we did.
I can't get over the fact that they were named hamburger and T-bone. I mean, that just blows my mind.
I think that was a psychological thing so that we wouldn't get attached to them, or growing up, we knew what they were for. And it did work. It worked really well. But going back to, oh, yeah, Chris P., I was just going to mention about cloves, going back to all the spices, they don't tell us how medicinal those spices can be. When I was taking an herbology class, I learned that those spices, you have your antiparasitics. And I learned the reason they put cloves, I never knew this, in a ham was to kill the parasites in the ham. I thought it was just for flavor. I had no idea.
Yeah, cloves could do amazing things, help with a toothache. Most definitely if you use cloves, black walnut hull, and wormwood, it's a great parasite cleanse. And when I had contracted Lyme's disease, that was one of the first things I did, that protocol. And you could put clove into your cavity to remove the pain. And you want to talk about a tough guy? I want to tell you about a tough guy that we have in our family. He's here right now. David, brother David, he pulled his own tooth. That's a tough guy, and he didn't take anything as far as any sort of painkillers or anything like that. So, we have our new dentist, in our end of the world zombie apocalypse scenario. Dave Lewis will pull teeth, and he will do it, in a very, very professional manner. And then we'll just use some clove. And so, Free Flow's talking about mercury fillings. We know that's a slow poison as well. You have to be careful when you get them removed, as well, if you do get them removed. Susan says, egads. Yeah, I know. That's a tough guy. And you know what, though? The other thing about David is he has the greenest thumb I've ever seen. The man can grow enough food, in a yard that is maybe, 5,000 feet, a tenth of an acre yard. He could probably grow enough food for everybody that's in the chat room right now.
Yeah, there's I wouldn't say professional. Well, we do. We call you professional, David. You're awesome. And I'm sure he'll be very humane at it too. So now that we have a dentist and a grower, we just about have our land and our family ready. We're ready for the end of the world. No, but I'm kidding. That's not going to happen. But it is nice to know what people can do, their specific talents. And wow, I can't get over that, David. Pulled your own tooth.
He is a man of many talents, most definitely. So, interesting conversations we're seeing. And, okay, the other thing, a couple of things to touch on here. So, we've seen just so much flooding and rain. Over here we have heavy rain and floods claiming 41 lives, Democratic Republic of the Congo. And there again, the road to nowhere. We're on the road to nowhere. What was that? Was that Talking Heads? I forget who that was now. I think it might have been Talking Heads. This is just what we're seeing around the globe. Fatalities surged to 65. Widespread devastation as heavy rains continue to batter Kenya. We've talked about everything going on there. And, actually the fight for Africa and South America as far as the resources, because if it is going to get pretty damn cold, there's going to be less and less prime growing areas. And David Adapt, he was talking before at length about how northern Africa, which, right now has been barren and desert, it was a breadbasket, way back in the Roman times. And if you guys follow Florida Maquis, he did a segment the other day talking about Antarctica and also talking about like mud flood and our hidden history, and he was looking at different maps and thinking that maybe our timelines are completely off. And perhaps, Antarctica was actually not even snow covered just going back hundreds of years ago. And it's mind-boggling the thoughts that are coming to people now and starting to piece things together. as to the real history of what's going on. So we have a 6.1 that hits near the coast of Crete in Greece. And what a beautiful area this is, which I've never seen but in person, just, obviously through movies and photos and stuff. Love to be able to visit this area as well. And this comes on top of the quake that now has killed at least 27 in Albania. So a state of emergency there as they're still sifting through the rubble, and probably the numbers are going to go up there as well. Very, very sad situation. Yeah, Susan speaking about the article regarding the Amazon jungle, evidence that was planted / created. There's been a lot of stuff coming out with the Amazon. That exact one, no, but I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all. Chris P in the house. Good to see you, brother. There's so much going on right now. Yeah, look out, Italy and the Alps. Very, very interesting stuff, and some, unusual earthquakes. Well, okay, let's jump over USGS first. And so I remember I was telling you about a swarm that's close to us here. And it was here 2 days ago, then nothing, and it's here again today. And honestly, if I'm going to be suspicious, I'm going to think, they're blasting. They're, making more room in the deep underground bases here. That's kind of my guess. I mean, seriously, I kind of have doubts on whether this is natural. There was nothing yesterday in this area, and then a swarm just like this 2 days ago. And there's always a lot of little things happening on bases. And, we know China Lake, that's a base. We still see the activity going on straight through there. And so, the whole Ridgecrest quake, which has set the Garlock fault kind of in motion, and perhaps set the stage for the inevitable big one that's going to hit the San Andreas, because there is motion and movement. And our brother that's over here in Lancaster, Palmdale area that we go and we visited in the past, and he sees a lot of interesting activity over there, and he keeps a really close eye on the quake situation, especially in this area. Now, this is another one. You'll see these here and there. East of Atlanta, 2.1, Madison, Georgia. It's always fascinating when you see them off the plates. And we were talking about the New Madrid, and it was mentioning again, Charleston was hit with a major quake back, I think, in the 1880s. Actually kind of liquefied the ground there. And the church that's on Church Street in Charleston is still tilted at an angle from that quake when the ground had kind of liquefied. And it did a lot of damage.
Yeah, I bet they did. But you're really good at picking up the quakes that don't really belong. I'm not so good at that. You've been looking at this for a long time. So, like, when you get on here, what's the quake that really sticks out to you the most recently that we've had? I mean, as far as making things move and shake, what would concern you the most?
It all depends. It really does all depend. I mean, we've seen some activity, like it's obvious over here. You could see the ones that we were talking about, Albania, and then now Greece. And of course, USGS doesn't cover them all, so we jump over to CSEM to see. Now, it's interesting to see which ones are covered by who. And what do we got there? 3.0 over on the Azores. And I always watch this whole area as well. Just because of La Palma and, the whole potential tsunami. So when we come over here, we see just how really active it is. Here's the big one in Greece. And we look at Albania. I mean, look at all these aftershocks as we zoom in. Look at that. Now, that's active. That's super active. Lots of activity right there going on. And then as soon as I take a peek and see Turkey here, again, I gotta redo a video on all the underground cave systems through here, where hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions, could have gone and lived in the past when the shit was really hitting the fan. It's fascinating. And Turkey is, as we see here, it's a kind of a bridge through the area. And there's interesting history there as well as through here, along with tribal migrations. Just fascinating stuff, fascinating stuff, and fascinating sights. Catalhyuk is just so interesting. What are we going to see? What are we really going to see in our lifetimes? I don't know. I really don't know. And even timelines, we've talked about that. We talked about Diehold talking about 2046 for the big solar blast. We've talked about Corey Good saying that, he's been told that the solar sneeze is going to happen sometime between now and 2025. More and more people keep bringing up Deagle and saying, did you see this? Yes, I've made like 5 videos on Deagle. They're calling for a huge population reduction in many of the NATO countries by 2025. Huge. Like the U.S. going from 327 million people to 100 million. And actually at one time they had it going all the way down to 50 million people. What could possibly cause that? Here we are, we're going to be rolling into 2020, and that's just a handful of years away. There's still 327 million of us. We're not, leaving the country and, by the boatload and the train load yet. It's not like that big exodus from the day after tomorrow, remember, where the people tore down the wall and just rushed into Mexico. It's such an amazing sight to see it just reverse. But what are we really going to see?
I don't know. I lean on the side of be prepared and don't let the loosh get to you, because it does feel like a whole lot of loosh going on there. And they do create things and then feed off of fear, on every level, in my humble opinion.
They do. And, how much is real and how much is Memorex, right? Right. If you remember that. Brutal freezing November temperatures spread across Russia and down to 65 below Fahrenheit, 54 below centigrade. And again, the magnetic poles are racing and they're shifting rapidly and speeding up from what we've been seeing. So, this is part of our changing climate, our changing world. And we have a major water receding event, empties the Don River and Taganrog Bay at its lowest in Russia. We were seeing a while ago, and Mr. MBB was doing a great job covering it, these bizarre water receding events where it's like, whoop, there's no water. When we had the hurricane go by, the whole bay around Tampa was being emptied. Crazy to think of stuff like that, the power that nature has. We seem to be living on a Goldilocks planet, but maybe every so often the earth shakes us like fleas, so to speak. And there again, how much is real and how much is Memorex? And so, it's amazing what we're seeing going on. So I remember seeing an intense storm. I was up on Cape Cod, and it was very beneficial for the locals because the storm was so intense. The waves got so strong. We were watching the waves go up, and you could see fish just right in the waves, and they were like scrambling really fast. And then the wave would crash down, and the beach was being littered with bunkers, and people were coming by with clubs and just conking them on the head and taking them home to cook for dinner. It was just like you didn't have to do any fishing because, hundreds of fish were getting dumped up on the shore because of the waves. It was so bizarre, but very cool.
Thank you, Idaho. And Oh no, thank you. I hope I didn't butcher your name. We appreciate that. We appreciate that so much. That's very, very nice.
Thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And so, if you are up in Idaho, be very sure to keep that fire burning. I know it's snowy and cold up that way right now. And where are you from in Idaho?
Near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So it's a little kind of close to the Canadian border. It's pretty cold. Pretty cold.
Cold but beautiful. And that does go hand in hand quite often. So, love, peace, and blessings to you, my brother in Bangladesh. Glad you are here. Better late than not making it. Up Tubbs Beach. Do you know Tubbs Beach?
No, don't know Tubbs Beach, but it sounds beautiful. Where we lived, we did have a little sandy beach by the Snake River. Gorgeous, gorgeous.
And we'll do some exploring once it gets warmer again up that way as well. So we have a new tropical storm. 29W forms in the western Pacific. It's strengthening, and it could potentially become another super typhoon. And if they say potentially, it's probably going to happen. Could reach category 4 or 5 strength. Yeah, it probably will. That's what we're getting now as we see the location on where this one's forming. And so, I was showing Cindy, again, the coastal areas I love so much. And now she has never been to the southeastern part of the U.S., and you thought it was absolutely beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's so cute, so quaint. I haven't hardly been anywhere. I've lived under a little rock in this little space, so I'm kind of excited to get out there and see some things finally.
And in a different world with no red tide and stuff, I'd probably still be on the beach in Sarasota. Even if I was homeless on the beach in Sarasota, I would be fairly happy because, the homeless population there is pretty high. And, for the most part, they're not so miserable, honestly, just like the people in Hawaii. Hawaii is loaded with a homeless population. But when you think about the weather, it's not so bad. It's just kind of like a permanent camping trip. But so we're going to have to keep an eye on this. Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, see what happens with this one. As, the storms are just getting stronger and stronger. And again, the cosmic rays are coming in and the magnetosphere is in decline. So, who knows what we're going to see. And we've seen a lot of planes damaged. And this one's by hail and lightning in Zambia. Yeah. How would you like to be trying to land in that thing? That is... it's scary. I'm not a huge one on flying. I've flown many, many times. Always kind of glad when we get back down, But in the weather, and I was keeping track for a while. You guys probably remember of all the plane issues. And, flying, it's a necessary evil in this world, and a lot of people do enjoy it. But most definitely, as things get more and more intense, it's going to be more and more challenging. So NASA unveils the first global geologic map of Titan. And you got to really wonder what the situation is out there, as we've been really so lied to, no other way around it, about, so much as far as the science, the true history of the planet. So Titan's the largest moon orbiting Saturn, and this is a very, very dynamic planet, very interesting, and we call it a planet because it's pretty damn big when you get down to it. It is a moon, but at the same time, I'm always reminded of the movie 2010, the sequel to 2001. In the book, I believe it's Saturn that ignites into a sun, and many believe Saturn was the original sun. Sounds crazy, I know, but in the movie they made it Jupiter, and so in the movie, the satellites, these moons, some of them become very habitable planets for us to use, a gift of higher intelligence, and perhaps there's something to that. This is just interesting. So we have an evacuation ordered after an apocalyptic fireball erupts over a Texas town in a chemical explosion. There's some videos here. Check it out. This was one intense explosion. And these doors are all locked and they're dead bolted, and they come boom, just blasting wide open from the shock wave. Wow, pretty incredible, as we could see the explosion here. And we've seen a lot of unusual ones that we have to kind of question. And unfortunately, hazardous chemicals, including likely carcinogens in this. We have our thoughts on this, I'm sure. I'm sure we all have our thoughts on, this type of situation. And this has happened far too often in the Houston area.
Yeah, well, they tell us a lot of things that seem to be slowly but surely finding out are opposite true. Like the sun would give us cancer. We better spread that, sunscreen all over our skin. And then people started getting skin cancer, and then they're blaming it on the sun. And it's just ridiculous. And now they say there's certain rays that shouldn't even be hitting the earth, which I don't know about that either. I think all of it is about ascension, and we're just kept in the dark. And I don't know, what do you think about that as far as ascension goes and the sun rays and everything?
That was my instinctive feeling way back. Organic Farms, thank you so much. Much peace and love to you and yours as well. Thank you for being, who you are, and doing what you do. I have one client that had a traditional farm. It was his father's, and then basically turned to organic, and has had nothing but federal problems after that, and felt like he was being persecuted, and audits, and this and that. Just sad, really sad, because it's not so easy to truly be organic in this world, and there's resistance to it. The powers that be don't really want this. They want everything GMO. They want to control the seeds, they want to control the food, they want to control the water, all of that. So it's a sad situation.
And the FDA is after the plant medicine, and that's really super sad, because even if they don't have a legal leg to stand on, because of the money they have, money is power, they'll take it away. They're after the CBD oil, they're after kratom, and I know there's a lot of the base plant medicine is extremely helpful, and is a lot better than so many pharmaceuticals. It's just terrible what they're doing. So God bless you for the super chat. We appreciate it, and keep on going.
Yeah, at least when we have our own stuff, and if we're growing our own food from heirloom seeds, and that's beautiful, completely chemical free. So everybody just check out Organic Farms, and we gotta support our locals wherever we are, local to us. And the people that are trying to do things right, people understand the bigger picture that's going on. And there's so much pressure, because it makes money when people are chronically ill. It just makes money. And it's sad, it's really sad, but that's most definitely what's going on here. Because as we're going to look, it's funny that we're talking about this as we're heading over into that section. Chronically ill people are just this amazing source of income for certain industries. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So we see wind could ground the big balloons at Macy's parade. And I remember, ever since being a little kid, always have to watch at least a little bit of Macy's Thanksgiving parade. It's just a tradition. And so a lot of those big balloons might be grounded because of winds. And the only other time that happened, I think, was 1971. Yeah, 1971. So, we're seeing unusual wind events, unusual storms as well. So this is interesting. Gallipol. And, for those of you guys that don't realize it as much, I'm a complete health fanatic and have been a workout fanatic ever since I was 12. It's just, been part of my makeup. Certified personal trainer. I've trained many people. I've, helped a lot of people with their diets, nutrition, as well as, the energetic side of it. QiGong, Reiki master teacher, Pranic healing, illness, so much illness comes out of obesity and inflammation. And that's kind of what we're going to get into here. More Americans say that they weigh 200 pounds or more this decade than ever before. So from 2010 to 2019, average of 28% in the U.S. say they weigh 200 pounds or more, up from 24% who said that between 2001 and 2009. 54% on average say they want to lose weight, which is down from 59% in the previous decade. So when we look at these numbers and was analyzing these stats, people are accepting being in less than optimal shape. People are giving up in many ways, and many are giving up on the idea of getting in great shape, being the best you that you can be, and they're just kind of accepting. And part of it is the fact that as we're talking about the farming and we're talking about the food and the difference nutritionally in an organic carrot, for instance, to a GMO carrot is huge. So while the organic carrot might look kind of wimpy, maybe it's half the size of the GMO, and maybe the GMO looks vibrant and large and monstrous. The reality is it has less nutrition. So on the whole, people are very nutritionally deficient, but they have an overabundance of calories because of our society, especially those people eating packaged foods, processed foods. For the most part, like Cindy and I, we don't eat any processed foods. If it's not fruit, a vegetable, or some lean proteins, we don't eat it for the most part. And it's been something I've gone back and forth on because as I shared with you guys before, I've been vegan and vegetarian, and then I've done mostly paleo, and then I've done a lot of keto. And I've tried to analyze how do I feel emotionally, mentally, spiritually with each diet, and it does change. There are benefits to some and then other benefits to others. But the thing that is, to me, so obvious is that it's all the crap that they're always selling us that's making us sick, toxic, and in need of certain industries. Now, if we just take hold of our own health and learn how to recondition ourselves, we could eliminate so many problems with ourselves physically, and we could be so much more vibrant and healthy. And, Cindy's a prime example of somebody that went from being roughly 180-ish to now she hangs about 125 most of the time. And she's a strong woman physically. I would not want to get hit by her right cross or her right leg roundhouse kick. I mean, I've held the pads for her, and she could hit hard, and she's in good shape and strong and healthy, and it wasn't always the case.
Oh, no, not at all. The system got a hold of me because my emotions are so strong. So they labeled me bipolar and started feeding me full of prescription medication. And then, of course, the weight started to pack on. And then, I was in a bad situation, and it just became harder and harder and harder to, eat good food at all. And then let's see, I had knee surgery and my shoulder was dislocated. I had shoulder surgery. So I ran into a whole bunch of, road bumps, and I couldn't get past them. And one of the things that really, really helped was the energy work that you did on me. It really pulled me back into alignment and helped me understand that, okay, I can't live like this anymore. I have to make some major changes. So I did, and here I am. And, I do think in this time, as our bodies are changing through ascension, that energy work is like super important. And it will help pull you back into alignment. You will feel better. There's a lot of things you can do, but probably the number one thing besides the energy work is the diet. So if I knew then what I know now, I would have never, ever, ever gone through, eating that garbage and that sugar and all that crap. But, I did it for a reason. I went through it, so that I could come on here and tell you guys, hey, if there's something I said or something I went through that helps you guys think twice and say, well, maybe I'll take a different route, then that's why I went through it, and it's worth every bit of it, and I do it again for just one person again. And that's my purpose here. I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to, walk a path with somebody or meet you where you're at and make life just a little bit easier, because I know it's hell out there. I've been there, done that, and I don't want to go back. I won't go back. And I'm just so much better now. I'm so much healthier. Yeah, I hang around 125 and we eat really good food and I feel a lot better. The anxiety is almost gone. So life is good.
Yeah, and you're like 5'5", 5'6",
Yeah.
so your BMI is good, and that's body mass index. So when you look at these numbers, to me, it tells me a lot of people are giving up, and that is so sad. And then we have to dig in now. Now is not the time to give up. If you're not in optimal health during these times, it's going to be harder to get through. Can you imagine if we lose the grid and all of a sudden people that are not physical are having to be physical? And so, once we got settled in here some, we've got some equipment, and with our funds that we had saved to buy a place, we bought a little bit of equipment out of it, and we have been working out hard and getting stronger. And so, it's one of those things. It makes a huge difference when you could be physically viable in a scenario of survival. And, that's part of the aspect. And I don't know if David's still in here, Adapt 2030. But that's a big component that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. How strong are you physically, emotionally, mentally? We got to get stronger. We have to get healthier. We have to become, more viable in a scenario of survival here. And what these numbers are telling me is that it's the trend for the average American is going in the reverse direction. So when you look at it, 42% of men in this time frame are 200 pounds or over, and the average weight is 196. And you have right here 14% of women 200 pounds and over. So the average woman is 159. And when we look at longevity, the thing is caloric restriction always brings about longevity. And so if you are used to taking in 2,000 calories, you cut it to 1,400, 1,300, you're probably going to live, the stats show, up to about 7 years longer. And it's going to be healthier, way healthier, less chronic illnesses. It's all about inflammation. And so fat is where toxins are stored. And so the more fat you have on you, the more toxins you have in your system. And with the things that are going on in the sky over our head, and in the water that we're taking in, and the air we breathe, you want to be as lean as possible, as healthy as possible. There's so many benefits to having a regular exercise routine. And we exercise, I'd say, 6 days out of the week. And, sometimes 7. Me personally, over the course of my life, I've always been I probably average 6.5 days out of every week working out in some manner. And it's just what we have to do in these times. So we need to get healthy. We need to get strong. We need to get vibrant. And the mass of the population is not doing it. And unfortunately, it appears that they're kind of giving up. As fewer Americans report being overweight, they're starting to think that, well, I'm good. And it's good to have a positive self-image. But then at the same time, how healthy are we? Can you do, 50 push-ups and 25 pull-ups if you're a guy? Do you have that type of strength? Can you run 2 miles in, say, under even, 15, 16 minutes? If you had to, these type of things. A lot of people do stress eat. A lot of people, that's the way they react to stress. And there's a lot of stress out there. But what it does is it creates a lot of chronic illnesses. Obesity can cause brain damage. So this has another study There's a lot of things that it'll cause. And again, the primary thing is it triggers inflammation. And that causes just this host of problems. How inflammation affects the body. Inflammation is at the root of practically all known chronic health conditions. That's the bottom line. And it could cause depression, lead to autism, poor memory, Alzheimer's, MS, all sorts of issues, with your skin, cardiovascular as well, kidney problems, bones as well. You were diagnosed, Cindy, with osteoporosis, and I guarantee you they would not find that now, because on a regular basis you're handling weights, and you're basically telling your body, we have to adapt. We're going to get stronger. And so with you and I mean, we regularly do intermittent fasting pretty much every day. Usually we only really eat in about a 6-hour window most days, 6 to 8 hours at the most. So, we're getting 16 to 20 hours pretty much every day of fasted time, which is allowing the body to help repair itself and purge toxins. Your liver, most of our livers are under a ton of stress right now, just because of the toxicity of the world around us. And then if we put into the equation a lot of these different medicines, that's even, stressing it to another degree. So many people have thyroid issues, and, there's many reasons for that, and a lot of them are really environmental. And we also have tons of people with lung problems, and I was not sick for like a whole decade, even once, with not even a sniffle. And that was when I was managing as well retirement communities, and we were actually our community at one point was basically what's the word, where they put you in quarantine. Yeah, we were basically quarantined because we had an outbreak of some nasty stuff that you get on cruise ships often. And so, I was exposed to it, but I never got sick. And that was because my Wei Qi is really strong, as long as I'm not letting myself get run down. Of course, also, your gut is so important. The bacteria in your gut. What we've learned about the microbiome has changed how we look at things in general. And then, of course, muscle issues as well with inflammation. You could have all sorts of issues with that develop as well. So much of it is what we're putting in our body. So eat more of these, and, things like fruits and veggies, organic, dark leafy greens. Now, grains, it depends on the person, and make sure they're not GMO. The worst thing is the GMO wheats, and they cause so much inflammation. And also corn, so much of it's GMO. Don't take anything that has high fructose corn syrup in it. Just read labels, really. If you eat fish, some fatty fish. Now again, there's so much with radiation in the oceans and mercury, and unfortunately that's the toxicity of the world that we're in right now. Beans, olive oil, green teas, great. Ginger and turmeric, great things. And then eat less. And number one, refined sugars. Charred food, especially is something that can lead to different cancers. You see soy there. This looks like McDonald's here. Mm-hmm. And refined flours, red meat, seed oils. And then, increase your exercise. Reduce stress with meditation, QiGong, Tai Chi, yoga. Get to your recommended body weight. Everybody is different, and get good, consistent sleep. And so that will do wonders for us. And the other thing, we see here, U.S. fertility rate hits record low after 4 consecutive years of decline. It's just going down, down, down. And we see why. It's all of the above factors, and including other things as well. So it's so important that we get strong.
Yeah, even Greg here says, since beginning to watch my GMO intake, I have seen a major reduction in arthritis flare-ups. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And everything at the base of it, inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. And that's where we really need to make things a little bit better. And probably the best thing I've found for inflammation is fasting. That's really helped a lot to, and I think fasting is cumulative, isn't it?
Yeah, the effects are cumulative. And, one thing that our brother Soul Reviver does as well is coffee enemas. And he got us on the habit, and that has actually helped tremendously. Tremendously. So, there was a time period where I weighed 240, and I was so caught up in weightlifting and just trying to see how much weight I could lift. I don't have a big bone structure. I'm not naturally supposed to be a really big guy. But yeah, I put so much weight on just because I wanted to get to certain numbers, and I got up to 405-pound bench for 3, and was squatting and ended up rupturing L4 and L5, and then shortly thereafter ended up getting Lyme's disease, and all those things were because I was on the wrong track. I was totally on the wrong track. I was doing things I wasn't supposed to do, wasn't designed to do. And so, most of the time now, I've ran, over the last 20 years between, as a low of 165 and a high of maybe 195, with more muscle on. But I feel great. I feel amazing right now, honestly, because now we're really starting to get back into pretty good shape.
Okay, so Sherry, what's a natural remedy for a UTI? I'm guessing urinary tract infection. This is going to sound weird, and I feel weird even saying it on air, but colloidal silver, if you can get that, you want to drink it, and you want it to go down there too. So you get, you take care of both ends with the colloidal silver. And I've ran into that problem, and I've treated myself and my daughter, and my daughter's friend. So it seems to be very, oh yeah, and cranberry juice. People are saying that too. But for me, it was the colloidal silver that did it. So try those things.
Yeah. And yeah, there is a component where a lot of times it's from dehydration. In the retirement communities, I would see that all the time with people that were drinking coffee all day long, and then, maybe teas at night and not drinking any water. And if you're getting cranberry juice, make sure it's real cranberry juice, not, don't, look at the label. And if the first ingredient is, again, high fructose corn syrup or sugar, now some of them will say natural and it'll say pure cane sugar. Well, not quite as damaging as high fructose corn syrup, but not going to help you at all. It's going to increase inflammation again, going to increase insulin response. And it's all about insulin response. That's why, like, over the years, I've become really more and more a proponent of eating more of a keto diet or a paleo keto diet. It's it's just choices, but also you have to have the right microbiome as well. So a lot of times people will get those things after they've maybe had a cold or got sick, and they went to the doctor and they got antibiotics, and now everything is out of kilter. Your microbiome is not as it should be. And that's part of like what happened when I was, when I got Lyme's disease. I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and I saw we had tons of people on Rocephin and vancomycin. And, doxycycline is the first one you usually start out with around the doxy if you have Lyme's, and nobody was getting better. They were getting on co-infections. Their immune systems were getting blasted. They were developing other issues. And so I went and saw a naturopath, doctor of Chinese medicine, herbologist, and she was amazing. And she really got me on this path. And it's been a huge blessing in my life, and it's basically been paying it forward. So it was a huge opportunity to learn from it. And really, we have to keep ourselves in good health is what it is, and eating the right foods. And like we put turmeric in Zeke and Sassy's food because it's so anti-inflammatory. It's also anti-cancer. It's great. Yeah, acupressure is good. Acupuncture is good. I used to go to acupuncture every single week. And Reiki and QiGong as well, because like one of my teachers said he started out as an acupuncturist and he realized I don't need the needles. I could just run the energy through my fingertips directly into the points. And that's what I do with energy work as well. Send it directly into the meridians as well as the chakras. So yeah, very key. Inflammation's very key. Now the West's population boom leads to development backlash. And there's an interesting line in here too. In Boise, Idaho, right? Boise, Idaho is actually booming. And in case you guys don't know, a lot of people are moving to Idaho. A mayoral candidate this year called for building a wall around the state to keep newcomers out, particularly wealthy Californians. He didn't win, but the West is getting an influx of people. Colorado, Utah, and Idaho is getting a lot of people. As people move out of California, they're getting a lot of the Californians, but also people move from other states as well. And so it's causing a backlash. I thought it was funny that they're talking about building a wall around the state. We obviously have heard enough about walls being built. I agree. Idaho's too cold for me. I've seen some photos of it. It's gorgeous. Beautiful country. And I hope California will recover. And we brought up before the idea of the states going their own way. The states going their own way. It would be so interesting, wouldn't it, if instead of one nation, we had 50 states so that they could be governed at their own level. The big federal government, in my opinion, is the most dangerous thing on the planet, pretty much. I think that's how we're controlled, and we've all heard about the one New World Order, all that. It's been here for a long time. I want my own private Idaho. Yes, Chris. It's really time for change. And we need to recognize, that less is more. Too much sin. Too much missing the mark. And then we have Poland repatriating 100 tons of gold in a symbol of strength. And just touching on, because many people believe the big crash is starting. The big crash is starting. And, will the big crash coincide with, our plummeting into the depths of the grand solar minimum? And what's that going to look like? So some countries are pulling their own gold back. And that is definitely a sign that things are breaking down in many ways. And we had talked about before, when we're talking about prepping and survival, bartering, because there could come a time where we might be like Venezuela and cash is going to be meaningless. There could be a time where you can't get to your cash because, the grid's gone down. What do? I got $20 in my pocket, shoot, we didn't go food shopping. We didn't stock up. Oh, that's not a situation that you want to be in.
No, not at all. So you want to take care of those things. I know we have a little bit of silver here, but I don't know if that would really help much in that situation. So yeah, things are definitely changing. We have to make some changes. I mean, it would be nice. It's just the right thing to do, be a little bit prepared, but don't buy into the fear.
Greg says he heard a rumor that China built a ghost city in Idaho. I didn't hear that. That's something to look up. That would be interesting. There are a lot of signs going on right now that, there is something really major, to say the least, brewing economically, and it's to be expected. Dave, I don't know if he's still here, but Dave at Adapt 2030 has shown, empires come to an end in these time periods, and wars start because of lack of resources. And so we need to be aware of that, and there's going to be a grab for resources. It's already going on in so many ways. And so Raven says he'd live in the Scottish Highlands. Beautiful people, harsh land. Jerome, Arizona is literally a ghost town. We've been debating coming to Jerome in the relatively near future. We've been debating another trip down to the Sedona area to meet up with some friends, spend some time with Craig and Aaron if they're on. I think Craig might be on. I haven't seen him in there. But again, family members that have become really good friends, and that's what happens when you meet in person and start to build this family. And Jay Griffin says his band played in Jerome too, as well. Jay Griffin, are you a fan of Tool? Because Maynard from Tool, he has a winery there and a restaurant there, and I want to go there. I want to go there and experience it. Big Tool fan.
Sarah Noah said she just got her stuff to make your own colloidal silver. Good job. I make my own colloidal silver. Now, I make my own distilled water too, but it seems like the distilled water I make at home, I cannot use that to make the colloidal silver. So I have to buy the distilled water from the store. I'm not sure why that is. It just is. And I put it in my generator for about an hour and a half, and boom, I have colloidal silver. And I do feed it to my grandkids, kids. Drink it myself. It's good for all kinds of stuff. It's just, it helps conductivity. But always make sure you're in moderation. Moderation is key.
Lots of interesting comments there. They Live Too says reptilians can create fake money. Yeah, they do. I mean, we know there's only like 3% of the actual cash in the banks. The rest is just, it's in thin air. It's nothing. It's not real. It's not real at all. Yes. Lots of interesting stuff going in. So Jay Griffin was in a Celtic punk band. Cool. They had a good time. Greg says when one of the largest rice producers in the world buys 300 million tons of it from the U.S., that throws up a red flag. Yes. So this is talking about the mysterious interstellar object that's coming towards us from deep space, which is known as Comet 21 Borisov. And interstellar comet, they tell us. And then we had that wall supposedly at the edge of our solar system that sounded like, 90,000 degrees sounds like nothing could come in or out, but somehow things do come in and out, I guess due to density is what they're saying. This tail stretches 100,000 miles long. 100,000 miles long. I wonder, when you hear about this, it makes me think of that Nostradamus prophecy about when the comet shall run. But any comet makes me think that because I'm so brainwashed by myself studying all the Nostradamus stuff since I was a teenager. But this one's interesting. It's definitely an interesting object. So that image was taken by Yale University scientists. And it has a bright white glow. So, unless it turns blue, it's not going to be blue Kachina. And so they say it's made up of ice and other debris. Now, we were talking before about the fact that apparently our sun may very well be a comet on a much bigger scale when you think about that. And that the planets are not traveling in the way that we were told around the sun. And really, this is much more of a helical type of pattern. And so, is this then really some sort of interstellar sun coming in, perhaps with other planets and other beings, entail with it, so to speak? It all makes you think. It really does all make you think. And Chris P is learning Cantonese. There you go. Or you'd like learning Cantonese over Mandarin. So this is coming in, and it's only the second interstellar object, they tell us, spotted in our cosmic neighborhood. The first was Oumuamua back in 2017, traveling at 110,000 miles per hour. So interesting numbers there, 110,000 miles per hour, 100,000 miles long. Interesting situation. We'll see how visible this gets. So our underwater herb gardens, the future, and this is interesting. If sea levels keep rising, where will we grow our food? Researchers in Italy are exploring one option, underwater gardens. So Nemo's Garden in Noli, Italy, is an agricultural project that's attempting to grow herbs and other lettuce greens in a place where no one thought you could, underwater, in the middle of the ocean. There you have it. So they believe that traditional large-scale agriculture is overusing the resources of the planet. Sooner or later, we're going to need to turn to alternative means of growing our food. Co-creator Luca Gamberini says 50 to 60 plant species are growing in underwater gardens, including basil, different salad greens, soy sprouts, and medicinal herbs. Interesting, you see it kind of growing hydroponically under the ocean, encapsulated in this, kind of a dome. So interesting. Another thing I've seen, as you see a photo of it here, is basically making floating growing platforms that could be moved into any location. If there's a will, there's a way. There really is, but unfortunately right now there's not a will on a big, large-scale manner. We don't have the major governments of the world, the real, like the G8 or any of this. We don't have them doing this. There's small little private companies that are starting up and coming up with super cool ideas and really, really thinking about how we can make things better. But we don't see any of our politicians doing stuff like this. And we need to. So here's a basic soap making tutorial anybody can follow. And again, know what's in your soap. Know what's in your shampoos. Know what's soaking into your brain. Whatever even comes on you topically can saturate, go into your skin, eventually end up in your bloodstream. So be aware of that. There's so many chemicals, so many additives that are not healthy. Many people are choosing to make their own soaps, and perhaps, if things get really bad, you're going to have to do it, or we'll have to do it ourselves as well.
Yeah, I think it was a Grumpy Troll, I think, said he makes like colloidal silver soap and shampoo, conditioner. That sounds really curious. I'm going to look into that. So yeah, I think it's really important that we know exactly what's going on our bodies. Like if you can't eat it, maybe you shouldn't rub it on your skin because it's going to go into your bloodstream. That's kind of what I think.
Most definitely. It's just one of the things to be aware of. So I'll have the link here for you guys. Green tea and lavender soap. Yeah, people used to do these things on a regular basis. And some of the tools that you will need: a mold, parchment paper, scale, containers, utensils, immersion blenders, spatula. You could actually make some money if you wanted to, making your own and then going and selling it at flea markets and other areas, other venues. Maybe we will end up doing that type of thing more in a barter and trade situation. Oh, it'd be so nice to starve out the powers that be if we could all bypass the whole Babylonian money matrix system that keeps us in this, in slavery of sorts. Yes, the skin is your biggest organ. So I want to thank everybody that joined us again this morning and afternoon. As always, invite you to come join us on Patreon, which helps support the channel. And there's some videos that don't go up on this venue there as well. Or buy a coffee for Evolutionary Energy Arts as well. Your support in these times is what keeps us going. As we know, with the censorship, it's a slow squeeze out. And somebody else had mentioned, other platforms. I'm looking into Twitch, as I had talked about with Scott has set up or is in the process of setting up a Discord for us to get together and talk. And then also you can find videos up on BitChute, because we do have a BitChute account going as well. If you are watching from YouTube right now, if something's monetized, it does still help us. We don't have a way of making money at BitChute yet, but we do have a way to talk and communicate there too. So if anything ever happens, we are there. And Sylvain, we appreciate you too. Much love, brother. And all you guys, Starfire, They Live, Sherry, Raven, Marks Gold. We love you guys so much, and we look forward to seeing you guys all again soon.
Love you guys so much, and we will talk soon. Take care, and namaste.
God bless, my friends. Namaste.